people of the World Wide Web. So it is the weekend. Obviously, we had one movie review yesterday, and you will see the one movie review today. As you would tell, it is Mufasa. This is probably my penultimate movie to my cinema, so my cinema closing. I know I keep going on about this. Just to let you know, obviously, this will hinder me a little bit on videos. How much it hinders me, we shall see. So this is Mufasa the Lion King, obviously, so I believe this possibly came out last year, but I'm going to add it into this year's review. It is an hour and 50 minutes long. It is dedicated to the life of James Earl Jones, who passed away September of last year. And this is kind of a continuation of the Lion King story, but then going back to explain the whole story of Mufasa, and it's not kind of just Mufasa. I did enjoy it. I was quite pleasantly surprised. I do have a few issues. There is nothing off. I think the credits show some stuff, but I left during there because there's no bonus stuff to do. A lot of the cast returned from the original Lion King because there are members of the original cast that kind of start off and feature into it. But yeah, essentially this is Rafiki with Simba's son, or Simba's daughter. And then he tells she's very scared on a rainy night with Timon and Pumbaa, and then Rafiki tells her a story of Mufasa and how kind of Mufasa came to be king and everything that was involved with it. Simple as that. So we'll put the spoiler warning up and we shall get into this movie. So as I said, so this starts the story of, you have Simba. Nala has gone off somewhere, as you can kind of conclude. She's pregnant. She's going to have another child. Why she's gone off to somewhere, I don't know if that's what lions do. Simba has then gone to spend time with her and calls on Timon and Pumbaa to basically look after her daughter, which is, I think, a little bit similar to The Lion King 2. Only in that way that there is the connection of Simba's daughter. So what you have here is she's very scared. Rafiki turns up and basically Rafiki tells her a story, and this is how the story goes. He tells her a story, and in between they cut back to Timon and Pumbaa trying to be silly and trying to sing and do all this stuff. Didn't really like this interpretation of these characters. I find it a bit annoying when they keep flashing back, and would rather have kept it just like, this is Simba, this is his world. He is king, he has had a child, but before him, the story of his dad was untold. And then they flash back, and then we have the whole story of Mufasa, and then they kind of build up to maybe have a sequel. I think that would have worked better just for the continuation, continuity of this story. I found it just annoying. It was like, you've got 2 hours, but you've only got a 90-minute movie. Let's interject all these stuff. But anyway, so we then reverse in time. I won't have the cast backs to Timon and Pumbaa and stuff. I'll just tell you the story. So essentially what it is you find Mufasa as a child. He lived in wherever he did with his mum and his dad, and it hasn't rained. Rain turns up. He goes and runs around this valley. The rain magically causes this massive wave to come along. He is washed away from his mum and his dad, kind of like the antelope situation, more or less. Kind of, you notice there are a few plot devices and stuff like was in The Lion King that they've tried to recycle here. He gets washed away in a river, ends up in another part of wherever they are, floating on a stick. As he comes along, he sees another little lion called Taka, very annoying. He said he's got like a mystery, he's got a secret, and then Mufasa's like, oh, well, what's the secret? Help me, I'm drowning. He goes, oh, you're going to be eaten by some crocodiles, as kids do. As he tries to get himself, as he can't swim, Taka manages to pull him out just as Taka's mum comes along and scares off the 2 alligators, crocodiles, whatever they are. Taka's mum says basically, because he's an outsider, no, he can't come with us. We don't accept outsiders in the thing. We eat him, blah, 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 blah. Taka's like, oh, but I've always wanted a brother. Oh, he's really good, and, he should come with us. She magically changes her mind and brings her back to the King of Pride. The King of Pride, of this little lion Pride, doesn't come across quite powerful, quite a laid-back, lazy king. Very much no, he's, blood is blood. If you're not blood, that's it. So he devises, like, they have a race. Obviously before this, when he gets pulled out of the water, there is kind of Taka grabs Mufasa's paws like Scar does in Thing, and I'll explain that a little bit later. It's foreshadowing. But anyway, so they have this race. Mufasa wins. He is accepted into the Pride, but not by the king. He has to stay with the women, and basically that is where the first story starts. The boys grow up together. They have a kind of song, like not like the Morning Report, but I just can't wait to be king. There's kind of that song, but I want to be a brother. So I think this is the second song because Mufasa's parents have this song, and I'll mention about songs and stuff later. It was all right song as brothers go. They like playing games and joking and stuff like this, but because Mufasa has been with the women, he learns to hunt, he learns a better sense of smell and all this stuff, and it is massively great. You know, he becomes a more massive character and has all these abilities where the king teaches his son to learn to run and not do a lot. It's going to come back and bite you in the arse. So they do this. As they get older, Mufasa decides to go off with his mum to go hunting. This is when Taka decides to follow them. As they're hunting stuff, they realise that they're being hunted by these two white lions. And basically this is where the whole thing is. So as they get to adults, you have Aaron Pereira. He was in a Netflix movie recently about a man who gets stopped over. I can't remember. Seems like he's an up and coming actor or someone to look out for. So he plays Mufasa. You have Kevin Hanisha who plays Taka. Tiffany Bone who plays Sarabi. You meet her a little bit on, and then obviously Kiros, who's the big white lion who we get is Mars Mikkelsen. We all know from Hannibal and stuff like this. So anyway, so as I was saying, they're going hunting. These two lions come across. Taka runs away because he's a bit of a scaredy cat. Mufasa manages to kind of overpower one and kills one. The other one runs off, and then they go back to the white lion runs off to Kiros, and obviously Mufasa and that go back to the king. The king's like, I'm really thankful you saved my wife and all this stuff. I accept you part as my pride. As the white lion goes back to Kiros, he explains that the one that was killed was his son. He wants vengeance. He's basically in this area of, or he covers this area of land. He's basically taken on all the lions himself and basically there to wipe out everybody, and that's what they're going to do with this, the pride that Mufasa is now part of. As Mufasa obviously has these senses and stuff, he can tell that there is like, they send a scout out, the king sends a scout out, watches him, the scout, the one that comes back that got his son killed, he gets killed and says that, you know, there's 2-1, we're not going to win, they're more powerful, blah, 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 blah. The king's like, okay, we have to protect my bloodline. He sends his son off with Mufasa as security, and that's kind of where this then story goes. They are running away from Kiros, and they're going to a place called Malele, which is supposedly this land that Mufasa talk about that is, you know, right for everybody. So as the story goes, they are going along the way, they meet Sarabi. Taka likes her, Mufasa likes her, but Mufasa, obviously, Taka says, you know, I really like Sarabi, can you help, you know, charm her, basically, and Mufasa gives him help, because obviously he has like really good senses, stuff like that, but he's not very good at doing it, and obviously, as you would know, Sarabi is obviously going to start to warm to Mufasa. Along the way, Sarabi has Zazu, so we get the introduction of how Zazu, he was her king's guardian, kind of, and he's an escort for them, and then they meet a young Rafiki, and Rafiki's going to guide them to the new heavenly land, and that's where they are. And it has this vibe, and that's where they're plodding along, setting up little traps and stuff, leading them to the place, which ends up being Pride Rock. So stuff happens as they get to a point. Sarabi uses this like kind of wasp bee's nest to get on his elephants to kind of trample a lot of the Kiros's lions to kind of prevent them from getting to them, and Mufasa saves her. He said it's Taka, but when she realises it's Mufasa, they kind of start to fall in love. Taka feels betrayed, and then basically goes to Kiros and says, you know, look, I'm going to help you get him. You know, I've been betrayed by my brother, blah, 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 blah. They have like a nice cuddle. And then he goes back and then basically sets up a trap as they get to the Pride Lands, the Pride Rock, you know, wherever you want to say it. Obviously, this is when Kiros turns up. Mufasa unites the people together. They overthrow Kiros, all these people are defeated. There's a big earthquake. The mountain collapses into Pride Rock. We have the Lion King, and Mufasa's mum is there as well, and this is kind of brings it all together. So what did I think? So I overrated this movie 5.7. For me, I enjoyed this much more than I enjoyed the first movie. For me, stuff like interjecting Nala's, Beyonce having a lot of extra songs and more evidence around her and stuff, I didn't really like. It took away the CG of real life animals, very much took it away from me, like Pumbaa and Timon and stuff like this. And I don't think there were really great choices, specifically Timon. I thought he could have been a better person. I didn't mind Pumbaa. I found him a little bit irritating in this one because they cut into it. I did like the cast in this. I thought it was well acted and stuff. And I think the overall story, the whole point of this is because Taka is basically betrays the king. He gets a swipe from Kiros, cuts a Scar, and he is Scar, and that's how he becomes Scar. And this is the whole point of their story that was written in the backstory many years ago. So that is kind of the whole point. So even though it's Mufasa, it's kind of Mufasa and Scar. So I did enjoy it. Overall, the story I thought was good. The coming of Lee's and the journey that they take was very, very well done for the most part. The world looks amazing. So what Disney have made the world they live in absolutely beautiful. And even like when you see the lions and the animals, they make them look so real life. And I think that is where I have a problem and why this isn't rated higher. So for me, when there were Disney movies and when they came out and when they came ideas, they have something which I like to call Disney magic, because I kind of can't explain it. What they did is when you draw stuff is you have a line, you draw it, but you kind of give it more human features and you tailor other stuff. And that's the whole point. It kind of builds on this kind of fantasy and people dreaming and ideas. And I think that's what all Walt Disney was about. So, people who watch it can dream, can imagine stuff like this. Watching this movie very much feels like I'm watching a documentary because it looks so realistic. There's not, apart from making animals can talk, there isn't much fantasy of it. And I think the more Disney try to go this way a little bit with movies like this, kind of takes you out of people fantasizing and dreaming and stuff, and it's these ideas and these thoughts and this stuff that people have that then lead them to create interesting movies. And I think this, don't get me wrong, we're stuck in this kind of loophole where it's the Lion King, it'll work, we'll do it, and we'll do it this way. It's something new, but I kind of, you're taking the fantasy element and you're taking this this imagination side of things away from people. And I think and with movie, we've been so rich for so many years and so many ideas from Disney. I think the longer we do that, it hinders it. I also think a lot of the songs, they're phoning them in. There was some they did really good, but this Moana 2, Wish, I think there was one. There are a lot of songs. I think since Frozen and the first Moana, there hasn't been a big Disney song that everybody's loved or catchy or something like that. They're more or less forgettable. They kind of fit in them with the movies, but they don't have that, and that's why I feel like they're kind of phoning them in a little bit. Again, this is where it is, and kind of that's a lot of what I have to say. But it's just to say, I did enjoy it. A few plot holes. One, Scar betraying him, Taka, whatever you want. He goes to Kiros. Mufasa's got this brilliant nose that he smells this flower that used to be on the valley of where Sarabi is, and he says it to Taka, and it's like, well, hang on, this was days older, you've done it. Taka goes and meets with Kiros. Kiros rubs himself on Scar. Taka goes back to him, and Mufasa didn't go, well, you smell like the lion that's been following us. I was like, blatantly missed the point there. Obviously, he had the sense, obviously giving him the sense of stuff like this. I also think the natural progression of Taka into Scar struggled a little bit. He's seen as a very playful, joyful kid, and they're all the way through. And then basically the first kind of main instance you have when you're adult, he's a little bit scared. There is no cunning. There is no, apart from this cowardice side of things that he kind of has, which he kind of does stick up for himself. There is no kind of the elements that you see of Scar. Essentially, he likes Sarabi, but isn't massively seen as he likes Sarabi. He likes Sarabi, and then kind of when he feels betrayed, his character's kind of all love and everything, and then the face kind of is twisted into like Joker form. It goes from a normal form to like the cunning of Scar, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm evil," and it has a few scenes, and then kind of redeems himself. And I was like, I would have thought there would have been more of a natural progression, or there would have been elements of when he was a kid of, you know, yes, he was a little bit of a weakling, but he's very clever, because that's kind of Scar's always plotting and stuff like this. And I feel that having those elements as a kid would have shown that, you know, he was a nice kid, like had a thing, and it's understandable between love and everything. That's how he turns out he is. But it is what it is. That is my review of the Mufasa, The Lion King. Have you seen this movie? What did you think? Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment below, and I shall see you in the next one.